Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Impressions video, and today we're going to be talking about this game right here. This is Fire Emblem If. This is the special edition. It contains the white version and the black version and the gray version. I don't know what these are going to be named in English. I have no clue. I guess it's Fire Emblem Fates at the moment, but in Japan it's Fire Emblem If, but each game has a separate title. So who knows? So I'm just going to be calling them white and black and gray for the download, the third part. But I will be talking about all of them in this video, so if you're interested, it's probably going to be a long one. And yeah, so let's hop into this because, again, this is going to probably take a while. But we do have a new Fire Emblem game here. And Fire Emblem, yeah. So if you've played Fire Emblem Awakening, you'll know how that was on the 3DS. It's kind of different from your standard Fire Emblem game, but this game it's not exactly the same as Fire Emblem Awakening. It has a little bit more, I want to say regressive, but I think it's a better choice because it does go back to like some more standard kind of Fire Emblem setups than Awakening did. So if you were like kind of an older school Fire Emblem fan and you were not liking Awakening for whatever reason, like you didn't like the map or you didn't like the kind of free grinding you could do wherever, there's options for you in this. But anyway, what I want to talk about first is just the basic stuff. How does it look? It looks better than Awakening. I'll give it that. It has the maps look better, the characters look better, the character models are definitely better. They have feet. Um, I think pretty much everything. 100% of this game looks better than Awakening. I couldn't think of anything that I had any complaints about with how it looked. I liked the interface for it. I even like between the games, the kind of save the data save information has a different border depending on which game you're playing. It's got a lot of care taken into it. It shows. It's good. It looks good. It doesn't have any kind of poor issues with how it looks. Not that Awakening did. It ends up looking better than Awakening. There's a lot of nice animation in it too, like some animated cutscenes. It's good stuff. It looks nice. So if you're really worried about graphics on your 3DS game for some reason, this won't disappoint you. Yeah. So beyond that, what else? There is voice acting in this game, but it's really, really minimal. It's, I mean, like as minimal as you can get and still claim that there's voice acting. Um, there's the characters will speak like one or two words of what they're gonna say, and then like it'll be like a long block of text, and then two more words, and then long block of text when they speak. So don't expect voice acting of any like high level in this game because there's not a real lot of it, and what it is mostly like grunts and reaction noises plus like a few words. That's the most common amount of voice acting you're going to get in the game. There are parts like in the animated scenes that are voice acted, but beyond that, you're not going to get a lot of voice acting. So, if you were expecting something with full voice acting, you're going to be disappointed. I was a little disappointed with that actually, even though like I know, it's not really something that happens in Fire Emblem, but you know, I don't know. I just kind of expected it because I've played a games that should easily have less of a budget than this that definitely have full voice acting. So who knows? I don't know. And there's a lot of stuff going on with this game that I would have expected more out of, considering the price I had to pay for it, which I'll get into later. Um, yeah. So beyond the basic things like your how does it look, the sounds are good. Besides the lack of voice acting, how does the game play? I think that is mostly what you should be interested in for this. But Fire Emblem, each of these games plays slightly different. I played the white version first, and then the black version second, and then the downloadable gray version, I guess, third. And they're slightly different from each other. Each one is slightly different. But the white version is a lot more like Awakening. It's easier. It's got a lot of opportunities to grind. If you want to grind, you can grind all day in the white version. The black version is a lot more like a classic kind of Fire Emblem game in the sense that you only have story missions. You have no opportunities to grind. I put a little asterisk next to that because you kind of do. But for the most part, you don't have an easy way to grind. You can't buy ways to grind, and you don't get like random enemies appearing to select from the menu to fight. You don't have any of that in the black version. So because of that, it's a lot more difficult, and the characters you have dying is a bit more of a loss because it's not easy to lose the experience you gave those characters and add it to another character. You can't easily do that in the black version. So if you're kind of a more hardcore Fire Emblem fan, you'd want to go with the black version because it's going to be more difficult. And I should mention that I played these games on hard and classic mode, so I'm playing with permadeath, and I'm playing on hard, and I'm playing with my own rule that if somebody dies, I'm not resetting. So unless the main character dies, and that's an auto end, you have to redo the stage. I'm not redoing any stages, so I didn't make it through any of these games without losing anybody. It's not likely that you would be able to, and I mean, it's not impossible because I probably almost definitely could have in the third part, because the only characters who died were ones that I killed myself. So I'll get into that too. But the thing with it is that you have your different versions, and if you played Awakening there, and you thought like it was just right for you, probably go with the white version first, then maybe try the black version later if you feel like you've got okay at the game. But even then, this game has like a new level of ultra easy. It's like it should just be stupid easy mode because there's a mode called Phoenix mode where if a character dies in battle, they'll resurrect. It's like you can't die. Even like the description of the level for it is like play this if you don't want to die or whatever. It's something stupid like that. I don't remember the exact wording actually, but it was something like play this version if you don't want to lose. Like, okay, it's like the auto win version. But Phoenix mode is there if you play on easy. That's easy, but if you play on casual, not easy, but if you play on casual, and you can select Phoenix mode, which will automatically resurrect your characters. If you play on classic, it's not an option. You can play on normal, or you can play on I think it's easy, maybe it's normal, hard, and insanity or something. I don't remember. But I was playing on hard. I didn't play on the hardest difficulty, but I played on the second hardest one, which is hard. And going through the games on that I felt just about right for the difficulty. Like I never really felt like, oh, when I lost. I mean, playing all through white, it took me about 30 hours, and that was. And a lot of that time was because I was doing a lot of the side missions that came up. In the first half of the game, I did a lot of those because I thought like, oh, well, it's on the menu and it's not something I'm calling, so it must be something I should do. And then like after playing it for a while, I just thought like, well, this is kind of pointless because they all take 5 minutes and it's just kind of useless grinding. So I just stopped doing it after a while because it wasn't really necessary. But it kind of made the game super easy too. Like even on hard, I was thinking like I'm probably way over leveled for this because I was doing all those side missions. So white ended up being like I spent a lot of time doing stuff that I probably could have avoided doing. Like I was doing those side missions with characters that I wasn't using for just to level up everybody, that in case somebody died. Not that it really ever happened. I think I lost maybe two characters in all of White, and it was just like characters I had just recruited that were way lower level than all my other characters, and they died immediately or something. And I thought like, oh well, who cares? But that was the kind of thing with it where, I was doing that not only for to level the characters. Like a lot of times, I was leveling characters I never used. I just didn't care. I was like trying to do things with the town simulation to get more stuff in it, just to see like the kind of end game for it. Like, what do you get if you fill a character's entire meter up or whatever? Um, so I did those side missions to do that, and not necessarily to grind. And it just kind of was a side effect that some of my characters were really strong. And it took a lot of time. So White took about 30 hours. But when I went to Black, there was none of that side stuff. You couldn't do it. It wasn't an option. So it took 20 hours to beat the entire game. And this is the times on my saves. But again, I wasn't restarting anytime somebody died. So the amount of times I had to redo a stage was like maybe once or twice, only because like the main character died or something. And in Black was harder. It was harder because of that. And you couldn't level up characters, and if somebody died, you were stuck with using a weaker character. And in my case, I think I lost like I had like the character holocaust at the end, where like you're kind of the last mission is like has like infinitely spawning monsters. So it's the kind of point where you're you know if you don't hurry, you get, or you don't pay real close attention to where everybody's standing, people are going to die. And sometimes it was just like you get to the boss, you can fight the boss with people and he'll crit you by, he has like a pretty good chance. So they'll die in one shot, even though like the numbers displayed show that they won't die. So that's kind of like how I lost almost everybody in Black, was through that. And I just wasn't going to restart it. I just wasn't going to redo it, the stage. So I lost a bunch of people at the end. I don't care. But again, this kind of thing it's good overall. Like the way that the game played, the difficulty level, the kind of, oh yeah, the way that the weapons work against each other has been changed a bit in this game. It's not incredibly changed. Like the kind of standard setup for it is still there, but you have a lot of different sub types of weapons. Like instead of just regular one type of magic, you have like kind of this Japanese style magic and this westerns, the books. Like you have swords and katanas, and they're separate things, but you know you it's kind of like that for a lot of stuff. So you have a lot of different new types of weapons classes that you didn't have before. So there's a kind of the weapon weaknesses and strengths have kind of been changed, but they've done it in a way that it's really easy to tell what weapon fights what weapon well, because when you get into a battle, it shows you in a bunch of ways. First, like there's a little icon for the weapon you're using, and if it's a good weapon to use against the enemy you're using, it'll have a little green up arrow. If it's kind of a negative weapon, it's like a weaker weapon against this enemy, it'll have a down red arrow. It's easy to understand, right? But they make it easier because the character portraits will change depending on the damage you're going to take or receive also. So if you're going to receive a lot of damage in this battle, your character will have this like "don't tase me bro" kind of face. And if you're going to do a lot of damage, they'll have they'll have this kind of like "I'm going to lay the smack down on you" kind of smirk. So it's easy to understand in that way. And in some cases, you're going to get automatic double damage for some types of weapons. If you have bows against the flying enemy, it's going to do a truckload of damage, and that number will be displayed in green, so you know easily that you're going to be doing a ton of damage with this weapon against this weapon type. It's really easy to understand. So like if you're really worried about it, like you're playing Pokemon or something and you don't know what is weak against what, and you're just like, I have to look this up. You're not ever going to have to do that in this, because it's really easy to understand it in the battles. You can just look at all the icons, look at their characters, look at the numbers. It's easy. Um, the characters also, depending on who they're next to, gain bonuses, and as they're in a fight next to other characters or with other characters together, you gain bonuses. So, yeah, it's if you've played Awakening, it's the battle system is pretty much the same, except for the different classes of weapons. So overall, the gameplay itself is fun. The game, the maps require strategy. The maps require you to think, and they require you to pay attention to the movement ranges of your characters, the weapon ranges of your characters, the movements and weapon ranges of your enemies, which you can display easily for each character by clicking on them, or display for the entire enemy force by, I think it's like the Y button, maybe Y or X, whatever, doesn't matter. One of those buttons will do it, and you can see like where enemies can move, where they can attack, and you have to kind of plan your movements and what you want to do around that. It's tactical. It makes sense. It's a fun system, and the game itself, overall, the gameplay is really fun, which is why I was able to play through the game 3 times. But there's it's not all kind of like puppy dogs and roses here with this game. If you are a crazy Nintendo fan, you're going to be sad about people saying bad things about Nintendo games. You're going to want to turn this video off right about now, because we're going to get into a lot of the negative parts of this game, and there are a truckload. Just things that are just kind of throw my hands up in the air, like, what is going on here? And a lot of these kind of like facepalm moments where it's just like, oh my god, I can't believe this is even in this game, kind of things, because there's a lot of that. There's a ton of that, actually. And overall, it doesn't make me dislike the game. Like I'm saying, overall, the gameplay itself is fun, but there's a ton of extra stuff in the game that is not fun, and it does make me like the game less than I would otherwise. So let's kind of get into that stuff. Man, uh, first off, we're going to talk about the towns. A lot of people were interested in this thing, the town building in this game, where you have your own little town, and the explanations for the town, dumb, straight up dumb. There's like a lot of things. Any of the side stuff in this game, like the reason you can use your kids in battle, the reason you have this town at all, it's totally ridiculous. The explanations are stupid. They give it to you once. It's a throwaway explanation that just like is there to explain away the reason you have these things in the game. There's no story reason for any of them. I mean, there kind of is for the town, but it's a silly story reason. And the kids, no story reason whatsoever. It's literally it's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, over. That's it. You have kids, and they're suddenly part of your fighting force. Really like that. There's no good explanation for it. There's no reason for it to be in the game. Like in Awakening, it was stupid, but at least it had like a story reason that was realistic and made sense for the story. In this one, nope. Just an excuse to bring back that thing that people enjoyed from the other game. That's it, really. I mean, it's not anything that would even remotely fit into the story. And I thought that was really dumb. But the town itself has a lot of issues. If you've ever played a town sim, like even a shallow town sim in another game, where like you have town management things where you're like, even Assassin's Creed has this kind of town management thing where you can like buy buildings and gain money from them and defend them and do this. You have this kind of economy going with it. So you'd get things from those buildings or the town, and you spend it on other things, maybe in the town, maybe in other stuff. This game is not even as deep in the town sim as like that kind of shallow town sim that was in like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood or something like that. It's probably the most shallow town sim I've ever encountered, and I'm a big fan of sim games. I like these kind of games. I like them when they're added in as just a shallow element of a game. I always do them in games because I enjoy that type of thing. In this game, I really didn't enjoy it, um, and I and the reason is because it's incredibly shallow to the point where it's hardly a town sim at all. Like you build the town and you can kind of it's uh like because this game has no like map that you're traveling on, it doesn't have the ability to go to a shop. So there's you when you build your town, you have to build shops if you want to go to shops. I mean, if you want to buy master proofs and things to level up your characters, you're not going to get enough to do that for everybody in the story. So you pretty much have to buy them. So you'll use the town to buy, blacksmith, weapon shop, an item shop, maybe a coliseum if you're feeling plucky. Um, and then there's like other stuff you can do, like random buildings for decoration or kind of defensive um, things. Like I say things, but they're really things. There's like golems and things, and kind of wooden dolls that fight and things like that you can place in the town for when people attack the town. And there's lots of stuff like that throughout the town, except that those things will level up, but you level them up the same way you buy them. So you after you defeat a level or a stage in the game, you get like a certain amount of points that you can use towards buying things in the town or leveling up buildings in the town. And buying the things in the town has no real effect on the town itself. If you understand what I'm saying, like if I bought a blacksmith, it doesn't change anything in the town except now there's a blacksmith. If I level up the blacksmith, it just levels up the blacksmith. It doesn't. It's not like a coherent town in the sense that like there's no bonuses for having this and this together, or this next to this, or this levels up because you used it so much, or this is stronger because it has this kind of effect. Everything is really like one to one. You buy it and you can use it. It's like having a the town is like having a character that you can't use but you can equip things on. It's not exactly like a sim at all. Essentially, I mean, it doesn't really have any kind of elements to it that make it anything more than the most shallow you can be for it to still be a town sim. And so that part makes it like kind of useless. Like if you didn't want to use do the town sim at all, like you just build you could just build a build the shops and you're fine. Like you never have to touch it again. Just level up the shops when they're ready to be leveled up. It's not incredibly fun or anything. It doesn't there's no like satisfaction from doing it even if you go all in. So that was like I learned that in the white one where I went all in on it. Like I leveled up everything and I went crazy on getting points to level the town up so I could see what happened when you got to the max level for everything. Nothing. Nothing is what happens. It's kind of like totally not worthwhile. Maybe if you're playing online battles and like people are fighting in your hometown, it could be worthwhile, but I don't see it. It's not for me. Um, the town also had a lot of the absolute worst elements of the game. Um, Seriously, the worst elements of the game was the your house. Your house is not like Animal Crossing where you're decorating. It's not anything like that. It's your house is like you go and you can invite people in your party to come and be rubbed by you. It's, I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but that's exactly what it is. This is like um, Idea Factory level garbage. Um, for example, you invite people to your house and you have to use the stylus on them and rub their hair or something or rub their face or rub their neck or something, and it's pervy. Like we're thinking like you like rub them and they'll say something and then like their face will turn red or whatever, and for some reason this like makes them closer to you. whatever. It's not really important, but it's there to kind of give you the ability to become closer to the characters that you have in your party without fighting next to them in battle. And for that reason, it's useful to do, but it's the most annoying thing in the game. It's awful. I seriously hated every second of doing it, and eventually I just stopped doing it. Um, After, this is not like halfway through the game. I just grudgingly did it for like the entirety of the white version so I could see what happened when you maxed it. But man, let me explain this more. When you get married, also you have to rub your wife or whatever, and there's like you'll have to do it like 40 times. Um, that's not an exaggeration. That's like that's probably understating it. Actually, it's probably actually more than that, to get to the max level. But you get the best. Like most of the best accessories in the game come from that kind of rubbing thing. And you might be thinking like, I really liked the waifu simulator in Fire Emblem Awakening. I'm gonna enjoy this. You're not gonna enjoy it even with that, because like, imagine doing this thing 40 times with the character saying the same like 3 or 4 lines over and over and over 40 times. It's not fun. It's never fun. And I wouldn't even hate it so much if it didn't take so long. It's like not a small amount of rubbing you have to do. It's not like rub, 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 done. It's like rubbing, 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 and then ping. Oh wait, that's just 1/3 of it. More rubbing. You're doing it again and again and again on the same character in the same situation, and they're just repeating the same lines, and it's terrible. It's awful. I hated it so much. It took way too long. It wasn't at all fun to do. It wasn't. It didn't like make me like any character more. It made me hate characters just because I was tired of hearing their lines over and over again. Um, just not good. It's the worst addition to the game ever. I can't think of anything in this game worse than that part of the game. Like, I hated it so much. I really hated it. It made me dislike playing the game in a lot of cases. Like I just stopped doing it for the other parts because seriously, in the when I played the black version, I did it like 3 times, and I was just like, nope, I'm done. Um, in the gray version, I did it 0 times. Just screw this rubbing thing. I'm done. No, not doing it. And the downside to not doing it is that like your characters don't get the bonuses that they would to be in battle that they would have otherwise with the characters that you're meeting. So it, it's a negative thing to not do it, and you can get through the game without doing it, but you know you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage. So there's that. But also in the town is that there's a kind of um, I don't know, hot springs, I guess, and you can go into the hot springs with characters and like kind of look at them in their underwear form, I guess, and kind of zoom around their model. It's just worthless, stupid stuff that I don't care about. I know some people like that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna if this sounds like something you'll enjoy, you might enjoy it, but for me, I don't I don't play Fire Emblem to look at, you know, have characters make like somewhat, sexual noises or whatever, or look at their character models or whatever. I don't do that. It's not for me. I play Fire Emblem because I like strategy games, and I like kind of war simulations, and I like strategy, and I like thinking, and I like caring about, you know, whether I'm going to make it through this stage without dying. I don't care about, you know, having having to rub cute anime characters. Not for me. And this game like put a big kind of a focus on it for some reason, and it was awful. But that's not even like scratching the surface of the negative stuff. That was just the thing I hated the most. Um, the stories for these games, while like the stories themselves taken separately are generally okay, they're not what is promised by the the, the descriptions Nintendo gave us for this game. Um, for example, when we were told about this game when it was announced, the idea was that okay, these are two. You're given a choice really early in the game, and that's true. You are given the choice to switch between the games early in the game. In the first like hour or two of playing, maybe it's 2 hours. The first maybe hour or two of playing. That's what I'll say. And you get the choice, and the idea was that you would make this choice and it would change the way that the story played out. And it kind of does that, but not really. Um, because the story itself changes fundamentally in a ways that aren't due to your change. I mean, to your choice. So it makes it seem like my choice doesn't isn't what affected the story so much as like the choice was choosing between this entirely alternate dimension. Um, and I'll try to explain that. I'm trying to explain this without giving any spoilers. So if it seems vague, like sorry, but when you play through, for example, play through the White story, and there's a pretty clear progression for it. You go through, you're traveling from the White Kingdom to onto the Black Kingdom to finally end it on the end in the Black Kingdom to conquer the Black Kingdoms, in a way. But that is based on who you choose in the beginning. In the White version, you choose the white people. They're not white people. The white whatever. It's the white country, the white version of the game. The okay. The reason I'm calling this white and black is because the cartridges are white and black, but also the name of the country is Byakuya, which is like white knight. Um, the 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 black country is like Anya, which is dark knight. So it's white and black, obviously. But yeah, but anyway, the when you go through on the black version, and you'd expect that the choice would be different. Like the choice is different, but what it happens is like when you play the black version, you're like, hey, I recognize this map, and you'll go to the next map, and you'll be like, hey, I also recognize this map, and the next map. I've done all of these maps, except just my start position is different, and maybe the clear conditions are different. Okay, that's not what the game promised us. Like when people heard that this was going to be split into two games, really three games, um, the main complaint people had was like, well, the previous Fire Emblem games had a split in the story where like you could play as an entirely different character and go through an entirely different story, um, on the same game. Like it wasn't like you guys split those games into two separate games. And they're like, no, no, they're so different that they had to be different games. Well, that's a lie. It's just not true because probably about 80% of the maps between these games are exactly the same maps. Like there's no difference in the maps beyond your start position and win condition. So, okay, that's essentially what you could have done on one card. And again, these are on one card. It's not like I got two separate games here. I got both games on one cart in the special edition. And continuing on with that same theme, like they made it seem like, oh yeah, when you choose the black edition over the white edition, the white edition is going to like unify the countries. The black edition is reforming the black country from within. It's not really like that. It's not. It's just, again, it's just not true. The types of enemies you fight are exactly the same. There's no new enemies in the black version to the white version. There's just not. There's like maybe the difference between each version, the different enemies you fight is like maybe one or two. It's, it's seriously like there's almost no difference. The end boss is different. That's pretty much it. Beyond that, like in the black version, there between the black and white version, there's like one or two, maybe two at max, enemies that aren't in the either version. Not exactly we had to make an entirely new game for this. And going with that, there's no new characters either. Um, when you play through the white version, the characters appear that you fight. When you play through the black version, those characters that you fought in the white version are now the people that you recruit, and then you fight the people you fought from the white version that were your characters. Um, there's not. I mean, that was expected. I expected that because it makes sense within in this in the story, except that it's not 100% that. Some characters still join you no matter what, and some characters are, you know, okay. I'm trying not to spoil it. Is why I'm having trouble here. I won't spoil anything, so I won't spoil anything. But um, so I won't go get into that. But there is a kind of thing where like no matter what happens, some things happen in the story that happen. If I can be any more vague, but going on with that, um, it's it's not different enough in the story to to make me feel justified in buying two versions of this game. Like this thing, it's three games. This is essentially three games because it comes with the two black and white versions in the game plus the downloadable third version, which came out like a month later, was a free download if you had this version. So okay, but it was $100. I mean, that's not. I mean, that's not. It's not cheap for a 3DS game. And when I play through it, I expected to feel like I got $100 worth of Fire Emblem games. And I say games plural because I expected games were not like the same game with the same assets with the same characters in almost the same maps in reverse order with just different win conditions. Like that doesn't make me feel like I should have spent an extra like $40 on one version of this game. That it doesn't make me feel that way. I mean, um, it's just not it's not what they claimed it was. So it makes me feel like okay, you guys basically did what everybody hates about DLC. You took content that would normally be in a game and literally split it off into another game to DLC, or in this case, an entirely separate game that's uses all the same assets but is still a full price game. So, and I'm not being overly critical on this. Like all of the assets are the same. A lot of the even like the animations are the same. Like the cutscenes are the same in a lot of cases. Um, uh, and the worst part about it is that the third part, the gray version, is like the true ending kind of version. Like it's only DLC. You can't buy a physical version of it. So I couldn't say like skip black and white, just get the gray version and you'll have the best of both worlds. You can't even do that. You have to buy one of those to download the third part, which is like the real story, essentially the story that is like the most amenable to everybody, in the sense like you don't have to kill your family or in any case. Um, and I think like it's like you know what I can, and this is like kind of uh it's kind of shows the way Nintendo has been taking DLC, all the worst elements of DLC recently, like everything that you could think of that's crappy DLC policy, Nintendo has done it, and they're doing it worse than everybody now. Like, um, taking content out of a game that would normally be there and selling it as DLC, check, it's in this game. On disc content, on disc DLC, check, it's here, in the form of amiibos. And probably the gray version. I want to say that there's no possible way the gray version was an entirely a download because again, most of the maps are the same, and again, all the characters are there, and the download size for it was ridiculously small. So there's no way that that's a full download of a game. It's just on disc. There's no way I downloaded enough stuff to contain the animations that I saw, or the voice acting, or the characters, or any of that stuff. So it's just on disc. There's no way around it. Um, I think that's all the things people hate about DLC. Like, if there was a season pass, they would have probably added it. Um, and I don't know what other kind of DLC they're going to release in the future for this. It's only been out for like probably less than a month now. I don't know, about a month maybe. And I'm done with it. I'm not going to buy any more stuff for this game, because I think what they're giving me is not what they said they were giving me, for first off, but it's also like supporting the worst practices that I hate for DLC. Like, and it's not even to say I hate all DLC, because I don't. I think there are good DLC. There's good DLC content. This is not an example of it. And it just makes me um, dislike the game a little bit. And overall, I think, like, if you like Fire Emblem, you don't care about the stuff that I'm complaining about. Well, you'll like the game, because I like Fire Emblem, and I like Intelligent Systems. They're the only developer at Nintendo that I like, and when they get saddled with this kind of DLC amiibo garbage, it kind of shows that it's like crappy. And like, I would have been more than happy to spend $100 on this if it was actually what they were saying. Like, if I went on the from bought the white edition and it was like, okay, we're going to unify these countries, are by taking over the other one, okay. And then I went to the black one and it was like what they were saying, like it was reforming the black country by from the inside. So like, instead of attacking the white country, I was working to um, against like a kind of evil element in the black country, and it was an entirely different story. I would have been all over that. I would have been like, yeah, it really is a different game. Even if it shared a bit of the same assets, like, I would have felt like, okay, but the story is entirely different. And it's not enough different to like really even feel like it was necessary to be two separate games, never mind two separate full price games plus a third, I guess, half price DLC version using, again, all the same assets. So overall, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, even though like I enjoyed playing the game, because it feels shady. It feels like they did exactly all the things people were worried that they were going to do with this game, because they're terrible DLC practices. And that's how the game turned out. It turned out as like the poster child for all these crappy DLC practices that everybody hates. So like, when Capcom says, like, they released Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and like it had the characters on the disc, the DLC characters on the disc, people raged. I mean, it was like, still today people complain about Capcom's DLC thing, even though they don't do that anymore. Yet Nintendo has been doing it for like every game they've released in the past like year, and this one especially is like a terrible offender, because it's like an entire branch of the game is probably on this disc, and that it's unacceptable. Yet nobody is gonna complain. Nobody's gonna blink an eye, because it's Nintendo and it's not Capcom. Um, and it just kind of tarnishes what would otherwise be a pretty good Fire Emblem game. And I say that in that, like, I want to say that Awakening is probably a better game than this. Again, this one looks better and it plays well, but the story is not as good as Awakening's story, and it makes less sense in a lot of cases where, like, Your children, for example, make no sense in this game. Why they're there? Like, how could you have kids with somebody who is like essentially like a kid in this game? Like, you know, your little sister can get married and have a kid that will be her same age essentially when she shows up in the game. It doesn't make any sense. Especially because there's no time travel in this game. Not not in any not in the story at least. Um, but anyway, is it a good game? Should you buy it? Yeah, with the kind of caveat that, you know, you you honestly you don't have to play all versions, but you should get the third version as DLC because that's the only way you can get it, and it's the third version is like the best version in terms of like having a full closure for the story where you'll actually understand what happened. Um, the white version is actually the worst for that because when you get to the end, you have no clue why it ended that way. There's not really an explanation given. And then the black version kind of has the same ending with like the opposite, like kind of a mirror image of the white ending, but there is a little bit more explanation at least as to what is happening. And then the white version, I mean the gray version, the download only version, gives you a full explanation of why things could have happened the way they did in the other games, but not directly. They don't tell you this happened because of this, but like once you see what is happening in the third version, you kind of understand what happens. But yeah, it's I don't know. Should you play it? Yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game, but it has a lot of issues that weren't present in the previous game or in any other Fire Emblem game, and it also it it, it contains cynical DLC that like pretty much forces you to buy it if you want to see what happens in the actual story. That's, you know, imagine you played Shin Megami Tensei and like they were like, yeah, you can get the law and the chaos routes, but if you want that neutral route that we consider like the true canon ending or whatever, you'll have to get that for another $20. That's kind of what this is, essentially. That's that's a dick move. I mean, any move that has the what is essentially like the key to understanding the story as $20 DLC is not good DLC. It's not good business practice. It's not even good for the game itself because the story is kind of ruined. So that's the caveat. If you don't plan on buying that DLC, then you're probably not gonna um, be fully understanding what happens in the story, and it's not good writing. that's that's just generally how it goes. It's just not a good way to um, explain things, I guess, and it's not a good way to have this game, which is other would otherwise have been a lot better than I'm painting it to be. I don't know. I'm gonna end this. This is almost an hour of me just like most like 30 minutes is of me complaining about the various parts of it that I was tired of. And like, don't get me wrong, like I enjoyed playing it, but I think I'm done with Fire Emblem for a long time anyway. If another one comes out relatively soon, which I don't think it will, but if I'm not going to be buying it anytime soon. And kind of if if they do another thing like this, I'm just not going to buy it. I think because it's not it's not good. It's not good business practice that I want to support. And even though like Fire Emblem is like probably my maybe second or third favorite Nintendo series, um, it's not. I'm willing to not buy it if they're going to continue this kind of garbage with the story and with the DLC and with the goofy rubbing and stuff. Just it's gone away from me if that's the case. But you know, I'll end this by saying that overall I enjoyed this game, but I should have enjoyed it a whole lot more than I did. And I think I've talked about the reasons why I didn't. So there you go. There's my honest opinions about Fire Emblem If or Fates or whatever the hell it's going to be called for you guys. Um, and hopefully you know, got something out of this. And don't take my word for it. Pick it up, play it. If you're interested in this game now, if you're hyped for it, good. I was hyped for it too, and I played through it and I enjoyed it, but way less than I thought it was going to. And you should still buy it. You should still play it and decide for yourself whether like you enjoy this kind of thing or you don't care about the DLC thing, or you just want to see like if what I'm saying is true, or if you want to form your own opinion. That's what you should do anyway. So yeah, that's about it. So I will catch you guys sometime in the future when I play some other games or do some other stuff. So yeah, see you next time. See ya.